Hi, this is Tessa Keogh, and if it's Tuesday, it's time for a Tuesday's tip in the Legacy Virtual Users Group community here on Google+. We got a couple of really good questions in this week, and I decided to go ahead and answer 3 of them today. The first question that one of our members asked about was the customization on the family view, and specifically what she was talking about was this information right here, the information that you show in either the husband or the wife section. And specifically, I'm showing right now born, baptized, died, buried, and cause of death. But if I wanted to change that out, all I'd need to do is left click, and it shows that I'm using the first numbered item, which is all information, but I could also customize that. So we're going to go ahead and left click on customize. And that brings up the customize family view information. And you'll see that these are the field names, and they show up right here. And these are the names that are displayed. And of course, these are going to be shorter. I asked it just to show born, even though I've asked for birth date and place. If I wanted to change any of these out, for instance, I wanted to change cause of death, I could instead ask for age at death, and I would just select that, and it would make the change. And if I want that change to show up, I would go ahead and close it. And as you could see, if there is an age for this person, because you have their birth and death information, it changes this to their age at death. So you can change it out as often as you want. The other thing that you can do, and I'm just going to change this back to cause of death, and that will keep it what I have it. You could also load any of your custom views, and you can have up to 10. So if you wanted to include any kind of other information, you'd make one of these customizations up, and then you would save it and you'd give it a name. So for instance, if you wanted to work with immigration information, perhaps you were interested in when they first arrived in the United States, when they became a naturalized citizen, and what state they were in. You could put any of that kind of information in there. So go ahead and play with it. You have the ability to have custom views in a lot of different situations. So take a look and see. You can load, you can save, and then you could always use them again. In this instance, we're just going to cancel that one out. And I could also say here that I wanted to load that information. It would be giving me the same. And it brings back the cause of death again. So that was the first question. The second question we had was an individual asking about editing sentences. And this is my event for Ellen Kiley, and it's the census from 1870. As you can see, I used the date that the census was first enumerated because I want that date to be the same for everyone. I spell out my places completely, and this is the information that I put in. It is not a transcription, it's an abstract because I'm not taking all of the information and I'm not taking it down in that exact order. But what's important to me is to number the people, to include their age, their occupation. I am interested in the value of real estate and personal property if that's listed, so you can kind of get a sense of where they were in the socioeconomic status for the country. I'm also very interested in where they were born and where their parents came from. In the 1870 census, the only thing that was included was that the father and mother were foreign born. I also include information about whether they're a naturalized citizen, whether that citizenship is pending. You'll notice in certain of the censuses you get the date of arrival and how long they've been in the country. I take down that information because my people came to the country later than many, and so I'm oftentimes looking for that citizenship information. This will help me. So I've listed all of the individuals in the family. Now, if I wanted to override the sentence in this specific instance, I would use sentence override. However, if I want my sentences to appear a particular way all the time for that event or fact, which is the census, then I would edit the event sentence definition. And I've done that, as you can see. If you're to open your census and you haven't done this, you'll probably have the full name of the individual. I find that always reads a little stilted in my reports, so I've changed it oftentimes to the first name. And you can do that simply by selecting what you want and then inserting it. If I wanted to put this back and make this change, I could insert that name. Be careful and watch for double brackets when you do this, and then you'll see that the sentence is going to read this way. But take a look at that kind of information, because you're going to want to make sure that you leave the appropriate spaces afterwards so that this all reads correctly. But you can set this, and then if you were to make this change, it would tell you when you go to save it that it's going to change every single instance of census to include the first name here. If you have a description, if you want to play with how your date reads or the place reads, this is the type of thing you'd be doing. Again, you can just scroll through. You can look for your notes if you want it. You can use at, to, from. So there's a lot of ways you can play with this. And I would just go ahead and take a look at it. And whatever you do, you can always reset it if you don't like it. So that's how my sentence is going to read. Ellen appeared on the census enumerated on 1 June 1870 in Vesta, Johnson, Nebraska, United States of America, USA. So we can save that. So keep in mind, override is when it's in one particular instance, and edit is when you're going to change that event or fact for every instance that occurs in your family file. Now, the other thing that someone asked about was they wanted to see working with chronology. First of all, let's just go ahead and take another quick look. You're going to have your tabs right up here. So your pedigree is going to read a certain way, and I can move that forward or backward. We'll go back to Ellen Kiley by double-clicking on her. Your descendants are going to show up for Ellen and James, and it works through everyone. And this is the chronology. Right now it's in report form, and that tends to be how I look at it, and that's right down here. But you can also switch it to list style, and that simply gives you the first snippet of information that you have, but not all of the information. For instance, if we were to look at the census, it would just give you the first 2 lines. So you can take a look at that. You can also see what shows up, what you can start to read here, but it shows you in short form. Now, if we go back to the report style, I'll show you the 1870 census, shows up right here. And as you can see, all of my individuals are listed. I have that information, the line, the dwelling, the family. If they had a street address, an actual, I would say, city or town address, I would include that. They happen to be on a farm, and so that usually doesn't show up. The final part of this question was wanting to know how to print this. If you want to print it without proofing it first, you can just click on print. However, you're probably going to want to go ahead and take a look at your display options, what to include, your formatting, column width, report options, the sources, and the fonts that you want to use. In many instances, you have a lot of choice, certainly with color here and who you're going to include or not include. In other instances, like screen fonts, we only have 2 choices. But those are your choices there, and you can switch them out. Then you're going to want to take a look at the report in a preview format, and that's right here. And that'll take a moment, and there's our report. I always go ahead and read this in a smaller version so I can see my pages, but you can also make it larger if you want, just by working with the percentage of zoom. I entitle my reports, my chronology reports, the story so far. You can choose whatever you want. As you can see, because I've customized it, I have the age of the person with yellow over to the side. I've set up my columns. I've told Legacy how I want my locations to read, and I've selected colors for various things. So that's all in there, and I can simply scroll through to look at it. And the other thing that I'd encourage you to do is, if you want to look through it here, you could create a PDF and look at it online if you want, or print out your PDF and make corrections. The other thing that I always tend to do is go ahead and look at my sources. And this is a really good way in PDF to take a look at your sources and see if they read correctly or they read complete enough for you. And then you can usually catch your errors once you see it in a print format. You simply click on the box to create a PDF of the entire report, and you can go from there. You can also print from here if you just want to print it to your printer or some other printing format. So those are the 3 quick questions we had. How to customize, and that's just clicking over here near these items and customize. How to go into a event or fact and make changes to it, either to override it in one instance or to edit it for all instances. And keep in mind, this is the event definition, and that should remind you. And then finally, how to take a look at and print any of your reports from the chronology. So there you have it. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next week for another Tuesday's tip.